The miracle battery is finally here. Or is it? Or is it there? Is it in China? You see, there's always these big reports of some new miracle battery that can do absolutely anything. It can have 1,000 miles of range. It can charge in an instant. It can do absolutely everything except leave the lab. Well, the reports are getting a little more believable over time, and now we're seeing ones that are actually starting to appear. All of this comes together nicely. Let's have a quick chat about the latest one. I'm Brian. Welcome to Future Aza. I am still here in Germany, borrowing the studio, courtesy of Jan at TeslaFix. So if some of the screen captures you see have ads in German, that is why. So let's talk about this. There's this great news story out from, who would it be? China. China develops revolutionary electric car battery that can charge in 10 minutes. Just China. It's just a monolith. It's just a single, solely focused group that is just a country that is also a company that is also everything. Fine. China's developed a revolutionary car battery that can charge in just 10 minutes and power a car for hundreds of miles before needing to be plugged in. Is this real? Is this fake? Is this important? The way I'm looking at it is that, of course, a car can charge in 10 minutes. The question is how much. Of course, a car can go hundreds of miles, but how many hundred? How big is the battery we're talking about? What is the charge rate we're talking about? What is the actual breakthrough we're talking about here? And that's where it gets a little trickier. So let's get into that. The International Energy Agency has hailed remarkable developments in chemistry that have allowed China to develop new batteries that pack far more energy than existing technologies. Now, that's not a miracle, is it? That's an incremental improvement. That's the kind of thing we've been wanting to see over time. And we are seeing it. That is the reality. The IEA highlighted EV batteries capable of traveling 250 miles without a recharge. Why? Why are they heralding that? That's pretty normal. That's been a thing for a long time now. Most manufacturers have been doing this for more than 5 years, especially if you've got a car with a longer range, like a Lucid with 400 plus miles of range, almost 500, a Silverado with, 400 or 500 miles of range. I think you could add in 10 minutes quite a bit of charge to those. There's no miracle there. Let's dig a little deeper and see if we can find it. However, the agency, here we go. The agency raised alarm about China's increasing dominance of the supply of vital materials needed to build the batteries. Which materials? Because China mostly uses LFP batteries, lithium iron phosphate. There's no conflict minerals. There's no rare earths. Lithium is abundant. It exists in nearly every country. We recently saw a report that they could extract lithium from fracking wastewater. That would be a net positive for everyone. Lithium's calm. Iron is the most mined mineral in the world, and phosphate, easy to come by. And that's what mostly China uses. The fact that other countries are still on NMC chemistries with nickel, manganese, and cobalt, that's a choice. That's a decision that's been made. There's no reason that those companies have to continue with those chemistries. The country's stranglehold on supply chains means net zero global rollouts globally could be disrupted by extreme weather, trade disputes, or geopolitics. Could it? Why would it? These are things you can get anywhere. I think this is a misunderstanding. The IEA's Global Critical Minerals Outlook highlighted that Chinese battery company CATL had developed fast-charging Shenxing batteries capable of delivering 400 kilometers of range from a 10-minute charge. The battery is to be rolled out in electric vehicles later this year. Now, when it comes to these big miracle battery announcements, I like seeing things like CATL or Panasonic or Samsung or BYD, or probably that's about it. Those are big reputable companies that understand batteries and do them very well. When CATL says they've got something, they actually have it. When they say it's coming to cars, it's actually coming. This isn't a miracle, though. Adding 400 kilometers of range in 10 minutes, what is the size of the battery? If this is a ginormous battery, a 100 kilowatt hour or larger, adding 400 kilometers of range in 10 minutes is kind of where we already are. So that's good news. I'm not being critical here. I'm being excited because this is an exciting article. It's just poorly written. What I'm excited about is these are the kinds of numbers we need to see, and they're realistic. It's not a miracle. It's just engineering. The battery is to be rolled out later this year. Is this the same one that's the 15-year, 1.5 million mile battery with a warranty like that, which over the first 5 years expects degradation in the 0 to 1% range? That would be very exciting. And I don't see why it wouldn't be possible for CATL to do that. The report was written before CATL's latest announcement that has developed the Shenxing Plus, capable of 600 miles between recharges. Well, what do you mean by that? What is the size of the battery? What is the weight of the... If you put that battery in a semi-truck, it's not going to go 600 miles. If you put it in a scooter, well, it'll tip over. There's pieces missing. This was written, if not by AI, by not artificial, but human, and not intelligence, but whatever the opposite of that is, that's Yahoo Tech. This means cars propelled by the new Chinese batteries would need fueling less often than the current EVs, and at a fraction of the cost. Fraction of the cost? This is brand new information. Is it a fraction of the cost? One of the most remarkable developments in the global battery sector has been LFP. There we go. Got to it. This is a reference to innovation that removed the dead space in batteries, roughly doubling the energy density, and so massively extending the range. I don't think that's a thing, but someone in the comments please correct me, because that sounds amazing if true. Dead space, huh? The breakthrough is likely to be cheered by drivers who have long complained about range anxiety, because you keep telling them to complain about it. The EV drivers I know don't seem to have that anxiety. But hey, the report warned that China cornered much of the global market for the minerals needed to make batteries, a fact that will alarm many Western governments. Not entirely true. Chinese companies have cornered the market on a lot of things that go into all manner of things. It's not necessarily true with batteries. What they really have is fantastic tech. What they really have is the machines that make the batteries. Tesla recently purchased a bunch of LFP equipment from CATL because they have the equipment, because they're good at making it. Looking at worldwide supply, demand, and uses for minerals like lithium, cobalt, nickel, graphite, and copper, all of which are becoming increasingly vital for producing low-carbon energy. So we've got lithium, again, it's everywhere. Cobalt, you don't need it. Nickel, you don't need it. And it's everywhere. Graphite is everywhere. And copper is everywhere. The U.S. still has vast reserves of copper. It's just cheaper to extract them in other countries. And in terms of long-term mineral security, keeping your minerals in the ground isn't a bad thing. You'll always have them in the future. Supplies of most such metals are increasing, but the markets are dominated by China. Well, yeah, China makes everything. They're the ones who need the most minerals. If you're going to make all the things, you need all the minerals. Batteries rely on several minerals. For example, the cathodes generally include compounds of nickel, manganese, cobalt, and iron, while the anodes typically contain compounds of graphite and silicon. Great. So I'm not worried about the mineral component. Not worried about it. These, like with the looming predictions of peak oil that we saw always just around the corner for 10, 20, 30 years, what we reached was peak demand, hopefully, rather than peak supply. The miners are able to keep up, especially with the incredibly slow transition we're looking at. These high supply levels of supply concentration represent a risk. Do they? Korea owns LG and Samsung, two of the largest battery manufacturers for lithium-ion batteries. Japan owns Panasonic. They were at one time the world's largest EV battery maker. The only reason they didn't keep going was because the Japanese brands decided EVs are not the thing. We're going to look at hydrogen. We're going to look at hybrids. We're going to look at anything except that. And it's tough for these manufacturers. They've got 50 years, 100 years of engineering domination, of making these little incremental changes every year that's given them a 10, 20-year advantage over new competitors in the space. But in batteries, in EVs, in electric drivetrains overall, they've got, 5 years experience? 10? Maybe 20 if you count the hybrids? They know that anyone can catch up to what they've done. Why would you sacrifice that huge advantage if you don't have to? Certainly not because it's just better for the world. I IEA study pointed to Chinese dominance across a range of other minerals and related technologies. 90% of the world's solar panels come from China. They also dominate in electrolyzers, which are used to make hydrogen from water. Wind turbines and associated infrastructure also come from China. So that's true. That's all true. Fact check true. But why? It's because they got serious before anyone else. It's because they were willing to make the sacrifices necessary. It's because they were willing to sell a new expensive product at razor-thin margins and sometimes no margin at all. When you look at Chinese auto manufacturers, you think, oh my gosh, their cars are so cheap and so good, at least good for the price, that maybe they're going to just take over the world. And I think they will. But they're not taking it over because of that. They're taking it over because the reason they hit those low prices is because they're not beholden to shareholders who are demanding huge margins today or this quarter or next quarter. They understand that they're getting the flywheel in motion, which takes a lot of energy. But once you've got it spun up, it'll spin indefinitely. So this miracle battery, is it a miracle? Doesn't sound like it. There certainly isn't enough information. What is the charge curve? Are we talking filling it to 100% or just 80%? What is the capacity of it? What is the weight of it? There's too many pieces missing to know for sure. What I think you can reasonably assume is that this battery is, while not a miracle, getting closer to it. It is a step in the right direction. And more importantly, stop with all the miracle batteries. I don't want a miracle battery. I want a real battery. And this sounds like a real battery. So in the comments, what did I miss? What did I misunderstand? Thanks again to Jan from TeslaFix for allowing me use of this, his fantastic studio. And like, subscribe, do the usual. Everybody else, stay tuned, stay juicy, and I cannot wait to hear from you clever robots when I'm back in town.